June the 23rd of every year is set aside as International Widows Day. Widows in many countries often face denial of inheritance and land rights, as well as several dehumanizing treatments. Widows are often evicted from their homes and physically abused, some even killed, even by members of their own family. In many countries, a woman's social status is inextricably linked to her husband's, so that when her husband dies, a woman no longer has a place in society. Let's dig deeper into this now as we talk to Mary Ikoku, a social affairs commentator. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this time. Well, from what we've seen so far, it's very well documented that cultures, traditions haven't been too fair to women in general, have they?
No, they haven't, unfortunately. We've had a whole lot of cultural attitudes that traditionally just puts a woman in harm's way. And I think that's pretty much what International Widows Day is all about. It's a day to remind all of us that we need to have the right attitude towards widows in our communities. That there's need for us to treat every widow and every woman as equal human beings.
This is a subject matter that you are very passionate about. In monitoring the performance of the world globally, particularly Nigeria and neighboring countries, are we making progress in the clarion call to end all forms of discrimination against widows?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't say we've made a lot of progress, but are we working at it? Yes. Government and a lot of civil society groups are not as serious as they do with the other issues in life. Widows, the problems widows face seems to be an invisible thing in many societies, that we don't necessarily go out there to find data that we can begin to handle the issues of widows. There are no data, so you don't have good data to say, measure to what extent are this group of people suffering. But we can look around us and understand that you don't need to go far to know that widows do go through a whole lot in our society, ranging from denial of properties, denial of their husband's property, and things that they need to raise their children are being denied to them, lands they cannot own, and once the man leaves, the widows become subject to in-laws. And you can see a woman who goes out to fend for her children, she comes back to a home that she's lost her home. What happens? No bank has taken over her home. No, her husband left that property in good state. But you know what? A brother-in-law has just taken over the property that belongs to she and her husband, leaving this woman and her children to the cold. So some of these issues are things we should really try and deal with. And we are not doing enough, I must say, as a people.
All right, Patu Tomi, whose Center for Values and Leadership took over the administration of Widow Support Center, has called for laws that will reduce abuse of women, widows. Do you also support this call?
Yes, I am totally in sync with what Professor Patu Tomi is clamoring for. It's not just only necessary, it's also going to serve as a gap, a bridge that will, some platform that will bridge that gap between the law, the civil society group, and these women. You know what? We've had a lot of times that we do not commit to some of the laws that we put in place as a nation. So that center will be more physical, will be more visible to really see to the needs of this group of vulnerable group of people. Because you know, when a woman, a widow, becomes maltreated, you are just maltreating a whole community. But when the woman is empowered, even though she's a widow, she continues to do her work, she continues to be empowered, she continues to earn a living, that woman will continue to raise families, continue to grow her society, and you are actually empowering the community when you empower a widow. So we should really back Professor Tommy and every other individual and society that are putting up things like that in place, because it is a welcome development and we should really look into that.
We've already talked about that really strong bond now between a woman and her husband, and then unfortunately he dies. So we find that bond now, or that, well, fight for survival very, very necessary. But Mary, what's the major challenge here? Is it that the woman finds it difficult now to rally for outside help in, you know, in battling her family members, her in-laws, so to speak, and then not forgetting the ostracization that she gets from the public, you know, when they get to know that she's a widow?
Well, you know, when you lose someone you love very much, you are grappling to deal with loss. She's grieving. So it's not every woman that really gets up immediately and owns her life. And don't forget that the society naturally just puts the woman in a place where she's totally dependent on the man, and this man lives is like cutting your right hand off when the man dies. So she will need time to get herself back and then begin to look into, and it is not at that time she will be grappling with issues like fighting in-laws, trying to win back her husband's property. Some women do succeed, some are victorious in all of these things, but your typical African woman is already subdued, the majority of them. So she will be really dealing with, let me find bread and feed my children. Let me ensure that my children go back to school, regardless of the fact that my husband is no longer here. But there are, like you rightly said, there are help out there that she can get. But a whole lot of them are ignorant that these helps do exist. They're ignorant of platforms, places they can go to and seek help. So they don't know. They don't know that there are laws in this country that protect them. They don't know. So education is key. We need to begin to talk to people, disseminate this information so that they know that help is just next door, that they can actually get help and win back whatever belongs to her and her children from the in-laws. Not forgetting that the in-laws also need to be spoken to. We need, as a society, we need to also stop supporting evil and make everyone who is participating in ostracizing widows, in maltreating widows, in even marrying off a widow out of her, against her own wish. These are things we should really speak up against.
All right. Mary Ikoku, social affairs commentator, talking to us on International Widows Day. Thank you very much indeed for your time.